happen. Sorry, people, I'm sure you understand.
Yes.
Sorry,
Thank you.
please.
Hi, Laurie Dixon, resident. We've got 3,750 new officers. Is there any plans to open any new visible stations in the area? Police stations.
So, I have to say I'm not a fan of police officers in police stations. I want them out on patrol, but I'll then hand over to the district commander to give you an answer. But the answer is I'm not buying any more police stations.
In short, I think there's been lots and lots of research that went into decisions made about the estate and what we needed, what we didn't need, and I think in short the stance from both Mr Hirst and the Chief Constable is that we won't be opening any more police stations in the foreseeable future. The research showed us that some of those ones we closed, we were paying for at least a member of staff to be there all day, and there might not be a single member of public walk in there. That's not good use of our money when there's lots of other stuff that we could be doing. So the money we save from our estate has been invested into the growth programme, and the world has changed a lot. Albeit people like a physical beacon of the police are here in their community, actually offers you very little. And the ways of contacting us, people want to contact us online, they want to contact us by phone. People don't need to go into a police station for very much, so it's just not a great use of money.
And of course you have got the police presence here in this building, and you have got the police station on Canvey. So actually, locally, you're pretty well, compared to some parts of the county, pretty well kitted out. Sorry, on this topic, yeah?
Yeah, no, you've answered the question. I was going to say, I agree with Laurie that I don't think I was going to say, I don't think there's enough police presence in buildings within this borough. Rayleigh has one, it's great for Rayleigh, and you're saying Canvey has one, but my question was more the opportunity to utilise buildings like this across over Essex, where you could have a police presence without maybe the cost of having to maintain the building and everything else that goes with it.
I was in the police hub here only last week.
Friday, yeah.
But I think you said mentioned earlier that the police hub is the community police and not.
Yeah. So what you have is in the building here you've got the community policing team who cover all sort of community policing issues, problem solving, proactive policing for the whole district. You've then got a 24-hour response team running out of Rayleigh and a 24-hour response team running out of Canvey police station. So yeah, actually as a district we're pretty good, and we also quite often get a helping hand from our friends in Southend and Basildon as well, who will come over to help us.
And you've got CID in Canvey as well.
We do have a very successful CID based in Canvey. In fact, yeah, our CID colleagues are the most successful team in the county at solving crime. They've got the highest high harm solved rate and the highest all crime solved rate. So we're very lucky, and we're quite successful. So I still get lots of people whenever I'm out and about still say to me, Canvey's closed, no one works at Canvey, don't we?
Yeah, I thought the same.
Yeah, so it is, there are people there 24/7, and I quite often work out there myself. But we're in the very early stages of planning an open day to hold at Canvey Police Station in the summer, to really show people that it is open and very much occupied, but also as a bit of a show of some of the assets available from specialist departments as well that are available to us on Canvey. So very early stages, but we're looking to get that done sort of early mid-July.
But just following up on the same thing, I live in Brentwood. Brentwood Police Station was a very big building. Used to have a magistrates court, still there. Used to have cells, still there, never used. Had a front desk. Average attendance at the front desk, because London Road is quite a long road that goes from Brentwood all the way down to the M25. Average attendance at that front desk, 7 people a week, so 1 a day. So I sold that police station for £8.5 million and reinvested the money in Essex Police. We've still got a police hub in Brentwood Town Hall like you have here. There's lots more cops around and crime's down. Shall we say it was controversial? I'm just letting you know it's not just, I even do it where I live. Okay. Please, Peter.
Thank you. Councillor Peter May from Canvey Island. You touched on something earlier on, and I want to go on positive on that. Like, you've got more police officers walking around in town centres, and local residents have come back to me really positive, and it's nice seeing the police walking around and that. And I've brought this up before as well. A lot of my residents have said, wouldn't it be really nice if we could see more police officers walking around our streets occasionally? Now, when we had the PCSOs that used to walk around the streets, you had more information given to you than you've ever had. And I've had that confirmed by yourselves and that. But the thing is, it is positive because it gives people back the confidence, and then they get to know you. Because like years ago, area 1 Canby was really high in antisocial behaviour, and I worked with the police officer in charge then, and he got police officers walking around that area, and residents come out and everything. And then at the end of it, it really changed because, I say this, I got a football match against the police and I say the naughty boys and girls in that area, and it went down really well. I've got to say, you police were sore losers.
We always are.
But at the end of it, it was really nice, and we put a like a bit of food on and that. It was over small games with Ireland boys and girls and that. And the youth that were, I say, naughty, at the end of it, they were really positive talking to the police, and antisocial behaviour in that area did reduce for a long time. So it is positive having police officers walking the streets, and we've talked about this before, Roger. The thing is though, and as I said, this is not sexist, it's really positive. You employ more women police officers than you ever had, and that's positive. But when you're going out, a lot of the times you're going out on your own. And I just, me personally, I would like to see lots of your police officers having the taser guns just for a little bit of security for them. Because when you're out walking the streets, you never know what you're going to walk into. But as I say, getting back to a personal thing, residents are coming up with me saying it's really, really nice seeing the police officers walking around the town centre, and even the shop owners have said to me, it's nice because as the police are going round, they're taking the time just to pop in and say hello to the shop owners, and they're getting told information as well. So, it's positive.
And we do want to build relationships with the public, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on about the PCSOs. I started my career with Essex Police as a PCSO, and I absolutely loved it over in Langdon. We lost a lot a few years back. We do still have PCSOs in Canvey, and they're out there today actually. But yes, not as many as we used to have, and they are still very good, and they're really good value for money in terms of that engagement, that intelligence building. They're brilliant. Yes, I'd love to have more. That's just not possible at the moment. And we do have people, both PCSOs and PCs walking the streets every day. I'd say the difference now is we're a bit more targeted with that foot patrol, so we're driven by the data and the stats and what we know about where the crime hotspots are, developing trends and things, and so we'll target our activity to specific places at specific times because we can't be everywhere. Even with the growth, there's not enough for us to be everywhere. So we just have to box a bit clever from that point of view. But yes, we are out there, and as you say, the town centre teams are certainly, there's more dedicated town centre team officers than there ever has been while I've been a police officer, and they are paying dividends all the time. We're not just reassuring shops, we're problem solving, we're arresting and targeting those prolific offenders that cause the most harm. We're getting criminal behaviour orders for those that are persistent, and in fact literally just before I came in here this evening they went and arrested another one for breaching their CBO, and that was another Canvey one. So loads of good work going on, particularly around the high streets and town centres, and now the shops in the high street have got Shop Safe Radio as well, which is another positive for them and another means of us communicating with them and reassuring them. So
just one more question, quick one, sorry.
I think people wanted to come in on that question. So
Are you going into the schools?
Yeah, so we've got sort of different ways we engage with the schools. There's a programme that we do in collaboration with Fire around the sort of pre-planned, preventative educational stuff, which is all very positive. We've got dedicated child and young person officers who are working with youth offending teams and sort of doing more of that intervention stuff with kids that are already either involved in criminality or on the peripheries of getting involved, and trying to problem solve that and offer them support and diversion. And then we've got our regular community policing team, cops, and in particular our community safety engagement officers who have developed a programme called OpShark, which they target at Year 6 pupils, going into schools and educating them about ASB, so that they particularly target Year 6s because they're at that age now where they're going up into big school and likely to become the next problem if not engaged with properly. And that's been really successful, so that was designed and sort of launched by our CSEOs here, and that's now being picked up force-wide because of the success we've had around that. So there's loads of stuff we do with the schools.
Thank you. So I didn't actually see what order that was in, so I'm going to go ladies first, then new person, then Mike. And maybe we can just take all three questions, because I think they're all related to the same thing, yeah?
Thank you, yes. Yes, it is on that subject. It's great what you're doing on Canby Island, but that is not the story on the mainland. It is not. I mean, I have a question here from Councillor Russ Savage, which I've added part of my own question to, so bear with me, I'll just read out. Castle Point is desperately short of visible policing. Councillor Savage has proposed a bid for CCT grant funding from the PFCC for Castle Point, and he asked, do you support this bid?
Me personally?
Yeah.
My team are working with the council to develop that bid, and we've drafted up a plan for where we want the CCTV. So we're very much engaged with that bid.
Well, I'd really like it to come forward, and I'd like it to be a good bid. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well I was going to ask if you supported that too. So then part two of my question is regarding what Peter was mentioning. Some of us are old enough to remember the local Bobby. Today, with resources being overstretched, do you think the use of drones is a possible answer to patrolling our streets? Bit dystopian, but they can cover a wide area very fast.
So we do use drones. We have several drones in Essex Police, and we use them for various things. Whether they'd be particularly beneficial for routine patrol, I'm not so sure. Bearing in mind, you need a cop to operate it in the first place, and you need to keep it within line of sight. So it's not a case of sitting in the station and patrolling the whole of the district. It gives you certain strengths in certain situations, but for routine patrols, I'm not sure it necessarily gives you anything more. If we land a CCTV, that will do the same job as a drone if it's being used in just a speculative way.
So just to come back on that then, so you've got CCTV, you see something going on, what's the response going to be to that immediate action that's happening here and now?
So part of the plan, and the council are working this up with Southend City Council, is that the CCTV will be linked into the council CCTV room in Southend, which is monitored 24/7. Now, before landing here, I was the community policing team inspector for Southend, so I know the control room there very well, and I know the staff very well, and they are phenomenal. The way it works there, they're on our actual police radios, the control room, so they will put out, if they see something happening now and then, they put it out to our control room, and we deploy officers to it if they're available. It's as simple as that, and it will work the same because we've got the same people in the same room, just monitoring different areas.
I have to say, I've seen it. I was actually there it was Anna Firth, the MP for Southend West, in that control room in Southend, and saw, actually it was one of my little mini spots. I said, someone was going on camera, I said, he's behaving strangely. And as we watched him, he then turned and tried to mug a woman, and ran off, and they tracked him through the CCTV. It was immediately linked to the police through the radio. The police deployed. You saw the police arrive, you saw them chase, you saw him leap over a fence and get lost. They picked him up on the CCTV again, the police deployed again and they caught him. It's really effective stuff.
It is, but we don't have any police on the streets in Bentley, on the mainland.
We do
You
have, yes, a lot. Yeah. So I was going to go to, I think I should probably go to Godfrey next, if that's all right.
Thank you, Roger. Deputy Chief Constable requested 900 police officers. We got 300. Divisional Commander has just said, and I believe it's Deputy Chief Constable and the Chief Constable's vision that we have a police presence on the streets. We've agreed that PCSOs work. Would you consider, if a project was put forward, to part fund police PCSOs? I know I was on the panel, your panel, when we reduced the number of them, but I think that's potentially what our residents would like. In fact, I know we've got police on the streets because we see them, we do see them going around, and we see the cars and there's a visibility. But would it be a good way forward in the climate that we're in at the moment to part fund with the council PCSOs for the use in Castle Point?
So I think we probably never turned down a generous offer. Just to make sure we got the figures right. So my initial commitment was to 300.
Yeah.
The person who's now the Deputy Chief Constable said 900, and we have delivered 905.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the
numbers are there.
Yeah.
And you may have been on the panel then, but it wasn't my panel. It was before my time.
It was.
So I think the serious answer to your serious question is actually, we've got some areas where things work really, really well. So there's a unit of 4 officers, police constables, paid for by Epping Forest District Council, who patrol Epping Town Centre. That is a very effective support for the local town centre team there. We have Witham, which is a much, much smaller place, where they have sponsored a group of special constables, which obviously they're volunteers, they're not paid, but there is the equipment, there's the training, and they have sponsored those. They have made a huge difference to Witham. I actually wish we could bottle and replicate what we've done in Witham, because it's been local council, town council and district council, volunteers from the community, investment in safer streets, in actual target hardening with CCTV and better lines of sight, neighbourhood watch stepping forward, and the impact on crime, and Hull-Town police officers showing a presence, and the impact on crime in Witham has been remarkable. It is a phenomenally safe town right now. So I'd like to make it into a template that we can try and imitate in all towns of that size. Your borough is different, yeah. Witham's an individual market town which has got very clear boundaries. I don't know where Thundersley stops and Benfleet starts, to be honest with you. I probably should. I think I can probably work out where Hadley starts. I certainly can work out where Canby is, because there's water. Gives you a giveaway. But you see what I mean? It's a different. We need a different approach. Probably the most parallel approach is what we're doing in Basildon, where Basildon has sponsored, I think, 5 community wardens who now patrol jointly with Essex Police in Basildon Town Centre, and that appears to be quite an effective model. But I think there's a good conversation about what the council could do to back up what the police do, what the police could do to back up what the council does, is something that we would be open to.
Just to clarify, just a couple of things. You weren't PFCC or Police Commissioner when we first closed down the police station?
No.
The previous Divisional Commander, David Miles, tried to get specials up and running in Castle Point, and there wasn't any take-up. So there has been work behind the scenes to try and do things, but I'm just thinking, if we need a police presence and PCSOs work, and I know one of your PCSOs quite well, they're in Morrison's, they're in Sainsbury's, they're out on the street, they're actually trying to do things in their daily jobs. So they are working well, and that's the police presence. Just to see 6 cars out here, residents can't come in here and speak to a policeman. So I think if they can speak to the PCSO in the street, that's a benefit.
I was just going to say, just on the point of specials, we do have specials in Castle Point and Rochford who are delivering a massive amount of hours and some really positive results as well. So we do have special constables helping us out, and they're very good at what they do.
Thank you. I think I had Councillor Gearson and then Councillor Lewis.
I think probably from Godfrey and yourselves, a lot has been answered. I think the points I was going to make was I don't see any police presence in Benfleet at all. In fact, the lady, I'm not going to make a joke out, but the lady across the road to me was bitten by a dog. We've already been able to watch like WhatsApp group if we see anything that's going on. And a police car turned up and someone put in there, wow, I thought I had more chance of seeing the dodo than the policeman. That's the first time I've seen one in Benfleet. And I think that's the perception of, certainly of the public in my ward, that there isn't enough police presence out there. And one of the things, and I don't, listen, it's difficult. You can't be everywhere. You know, if you're answering something in my ward, there's something happening in another ward. You've only got so much resources and so much funding. And I totally get how difficult it is in this day and age, especially in, you know, when we've got so much sort of, you know, people in trying to afford to buy stuff, so they go the other route, etc., etc. But as an example, and I don't know if this is even cost effective, but I was at Bluewater the other month, and they actually have in Bluewater a police hub in one of the shop areas within Bluewater, and I had an issue what I wanted to raise about Essex. I needed to know who to contact, and so I went in there and had a chat with the guy, and he gave me some numbers. But there's nowhere I find in Benfleet or anywhere around this area where you can actually go anymore and talk to a policeman. I wonder if there is opportunity to get, whether it's the PCOs or whatever, actually, like we have a street stall every Saturday now in various parts of Benfleet, and our stance from the pit party of the police stall is we want to be present, we want to be visible, and we want the public to be able to come and ask us questions that we go away and try and find solutions to. I don't see anywhere across this borough where I can go like I did at Bluewater and actually meet a policeman and ask a question and get an answer.
So we do coffee with cops and things, don't we? What do we do with that?
Yeah, so we do lots of engagement events, which you're probably aware of, with, you know, Coffee with Cops, and it's sort of being rebranded, lots of things. But what you're talking about is, like you probably remember in Basildon, you had the old demountable thing in the middle of the town square.
Yeah.
The issue you got with that is the same as what we have at police stations, really. Is it cost effective to have a cop sat there for the one person that day that wants to see a cop and speak to them? If they're there, they're not walking around Benfleet, they're not doing something else. So again, it's balancing that need, because there is you know, a cost and benefit to everything. And in terms of the visit, go on.
I was going to say, how do they manage to do it in Bluewater then, and we can't do it over here? What's the difference between?
Well, dare I say it, Kent have a lot more money than us.
Yeah.
If you look at, you know, per head of population, we're the second poorest force in the country. So we're competing with that. But in terms of the visibility as well, and, you know, while I would love to have a cop on every street corner, you know, in the district, it's never going to happen. And with people saying, you know, I don't see a cop, well, I could put a cop and say, walk down every street in Benfleet today. How many people would actually see them? Because if you're not looking out your kitchen window at the time they walk past your house, if you're not in your car when they walk down that road, you don't see them. And, you know, we when I was in Basildon, we did it for a bit. We'd actually share and like use Strava or whatever to map where we've patrolled, and then put it on our Facebook, say, look where we've been today, and it would look like a massive squiggly line, we've covered miles. But how many people actually saw us doing that walk? And that's why, as I said before, we have to go with the data, and where the data is telling us the demand is, because that's how we prevent and detect crime, not walking around streets where no one's going to see us.
And I think there is a good point to make, just before I come to you, a good point to make there in support of that, which is targeted policing, to going where the intelligence tells us to go, has been much more effective. I mean, crime is actually a fraction of what it was in the 1990s or 1980s. I mean, you wouldn't believe it to read newspapers, but it is. Please. Sorry, I wanted to
Please.
can,
After Shannon.
sorry,
No, after you.
I forgot.
I'm very sorry.
No problem.
So you've kind of gone around my question, but I do still want to read what I've put down here because it is important. Crime hasn't gone down here, it's going up. Antisocial behaviour has not gone down, it's going up. Everything, all the crime is going up. We do not have a police deterrent here. Whereas I understand that limited police resources need to be deployed in proportion to where there is the greatest risk of harm to members of the public, as PCC, what action will you take to ensure your police force is doing this optimally while providing services that residents are paying for through their increased council tax? We are paying for a service that we don't see a return on what we're paying for, and the precept has gone up again this year, and I'm out and about all the time. I never see a policeman. I don't see a police car. I just don't.
So they are there, and they are intervening, and you are getting good value for money. And I'm afraid, I understand the sentiment you're expressing around the fact that you perceive crime to be up. And there's a lot of press coverage, and we see so much more on social media. But I have to deal in facts. And the facts are that crime in Castle Point is down by 10% in the last year. And I'm not satisfied just with police reporting numbers. So I actually commissioned an independent survey that tells us whether what we are having reported actually reflects the levels of crime that people are really experiencing. And the numbers say the same thing.
Right, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I must come back in here and go back to my original question about Digital 101 and trying to report crimes to the police. It's happened to me. I have reported, and it's not been recorded. I've reported a serious incident of a gunshot, and it was not recorded. My neighbours, where I live, we've got all this antisocial behaviour with drugs, with the quad bikes, with motorbikes, with stolen vehicles. None of it gets reported, or recorded, I should say. They report it, it doesn't get recorded. They never have a police officer turn up. I'm sorry they didn't turn up tonight because they would have backed me up on this. And they are fed up with reporting, so they don't report it anymore.
I'm sorry for that individual person, and I'm sure that
It's not an individual person, it's
Well,
the whole community.
as I can tell you, we do the survey to test that, and I'm afraid the evidence does not support your assertion.
I'm afraid to say the evidence is wrong.
We can only go on the basis of what we have reported, what we do record, and the cross-checks that we do through independent surveys of members of the public, over 7,500 people a quarter, telling us, and it gives us the same indication.
Okay, let me give you my personal example. I reported a gunshot. I phoned up, I said, this is happening now, I've just heard a gunshot. I was actually with the local priest at the time who also heard the gunshot. And when I came to the council and to discuss what had happened, the police had reported that there was no reports at all of this incident.
Do you know anything about that, Chief Inspector?
No, I don't know anything about that specific thing. Again, if you provide me the incident number, I can look into it for you.
I didn't get an incident number. There's a whole point. I didn't get an incident number. They didn't give me one. I mean, I spoke to you about this before. When you first came here. And then this is the issue that we are facing here with trying to report crime.
I'm also interested in you said digital 101. So there's the digital.
The digital 101
So,
and 101.
so there is a digital way of reporting, which is to go online,
But there's
do it on the
there's
website,
also 101
and there's a
call.
phone call, which is 101. Let's not confuse digital reporting with telephone reporting. They're not the same thing.
No. So I was referring to trying to contact the police
On the
in
phone.
whichever way. Yeah, so I did actually physically speak to somebody, but it was not recorded. And that is a story that I hear over and over again. and that is why your statistics, your evidence is skewed.
As I said, sorry.
So what was so in regards to that specific example, of course, hearing a gunshot is not a recordable crime. There's nothing to record unless we go and find verifiable evidence that a crime has occurred. You know, so you phone us up and say, I've heard a gunshot. We go and find, you know, oh, okay, there's damage to this car which is consistent with a gunshot, or some other evidence to say a crime has occurred. Then there's something to record. In that example, unless they went and found something else or some other verifiable information suggesting an actual crime has occurred, there's nothing to record in terms of crime stats. So it should have been recorded on our what we call STORM, which is our incident management system. So there would be a record of the call coming in. This is what you told us. But then, if that doesn't materialise into a crime, then there's nothing to record. So the stats we're talking about here are what is recorded as an actual crime that's occurred within the last year, and we, you know, the crime stats tell us that it is significantly down. You know, almost 10% down year on year. So, and again, in terms of our recording of crime, at our last effectiveness inspection by the HMIC, we were graded as outstanding. So, you know, we are sort of leading in terms of the country in terms of our crime data accuracy. So, we can be fairly confident that we are accurately recording what we need to record as crimes.
But as I've said, I will never simply take the police reports on what reported crime is. We will always cross-check it, which is why I have it done independently. And it is telling the same story. But please, you know, we're not here to tell you that there's not a problem. There is plenty of crime in Castle Point to deal with. And the thing I really need to ask you all to do is to yourselves and your contacts, you're all, I think, all pillars of the community here, encourage people to report. And please do it on the basis, not that they're going to get a response to an individual incident, but that the intelligence they provide is what enables the police to successfully intervene and make arrests and get criminals off the streets. And indeed to do prevention activity targeted to the right areas and the right people. I'm going to go to Councillor Lewis first and then I'll come to you.
Thank you, Roger. Just to support my two colleagues, you've had a ward councillor from St Mary's, a ward councillor from St Peter's, and I'm a Boyce ward councillor. And I don't wish to belabour the point, but we don't see this visibility. We don't see it. You know, we've got a number of hotspots on the mainland. I can think of Tarpot's been a very good example. And my question would be, what is going to happen there before we see a regular police patrol presence? Because I can guarantee you, Friday or Saturday night, there will be issues down there, antisocial behaviour, youths being described as feral, whatever it is, down there. Social media will be awash of reports that, you know, this is an ongoing problem. So you can say to us, and other members can say, oh, there's an increase in visibility, but we don't see it. There was an incident in a pub in St Peter's ward where 6, 7, 8 cars turned up.
That's correct.
But that's a rare occurrence. I cannot recall the last time I saw a police car, a police officer, whatever, within my ward. Now you could say, well, then you live in a lucky place, there's no police crime, because I get it every week, burglaries, car thefts and everything else. So if you take nothing away this evening, I would ask you to at least take on board our comments that the visibility isn't there, despite what you're saying. In terms of the reporting, for me, I think it's probably a little bit like Essex County Council with their potholes. I saw something the other night, Essex County Council patting themselves on the back saying, wonderful, we've repaired hundreds of potholes and everything else. But drive around our roads and they're in an appalling state. And probably a lot of people can't be bothered to report, which is what Sharon said. They probably tried to report, got nowhere. If you remember the first question that I had or asked from Councillor Alan Edwards, where he said, how can we get police to act on areas? You know, these are people who are reporting, and I take on board what you said, that there isn't this incident response, but police presence, I don't see it. So I did ask a question in my little rambling as to what has to happen, for example, at tar pods, before we see that present. So perhaps that's
So
good answer.
maybe I'll come first and you can follow.
Thank you.
So in terms of what has to happen, so I think what has to happen is that the Community Safety Partnership puts together a plan based on the evidence. Because we have county-wide a programme of safer streets investment. I've told you what we've done in Witham. It's made a huge difference. We've done it in lots of other places. We've done it in Harlow. We've done it in Basildon. It has been actually quite hard to get proposals from Castle Point. So if you have places like tar pots, please work with these guys through your Community Safety Partnership, pull the evidence together and make a submission saying we need some investment in this space to make it safer. That might be an antisocial behaviour hotspot patrol. Again, those things are well done. Remember where I live, that's done 50-50 between police and the local council around the railway station, Railway Square. Works really well, has massively reduced antisocial behaviour. Maybe like Witham, where it was an investment in CCTV and in Neighbourhood Watch, which massively reduced bad behaviour around their station. Different solution to the same problem, different layout, different things suit different places. But that, I think, from me, would be the right way to go. Or am I barking up the wrong tree?
No, absolutely not. I think you're spot on. In terms of what has to happen, is you have to be patient and robust with the reporting of things. You tell me there's a hotspot, tar pots. I take you at your word. But when I go and look at the stats of where all the reporting is, I can tell you that tar pots is nowhere near one of the biggest hotspots within the Castle Point district in terms of ASB and crime. Now, you're telling me you can't get through. Lots of other people are getting through because the stats are telling me that there's crime elsewhere and there's issues elsewhere. So, again, we go where the data tells us. Now, I'll speak to my community policing team inspector next week, and we'll talk about tar pots specifically and Friday evenings and the weekend, and we'll get some added visibility down there over the coming weeks. But if we go there and we don't see the problem and the reporting doesn't support that, then that can't be sustainable, because if we're there, as I say, we're not somewhere else and we can't be everywhere. So I can't labour the point enough how important the reporting is.
If I could just say, specifically outside of the KFC there, that seems to be a real magnet for this antisocial behaviour that goes around.
And just is it like all weekend or predominantly Friday nights? Is there like a...
I used to live there. It's every night, but it's worse at the weekends.
In fact, over the last couple of weeks, they've had to lock the doors and lock themselves in the back because they were so scared. This is the actual people that are...
KFC?
The KFC people that are serving actually had to lock themselves in because they thought they were in such danger from outside.
I'll get my team to go and actually go into KFC and speak to them and really assess what the problem is and do some actual proper problem solving work
sometimes these
around
things
it.
get over-exaggerated on WhatsApp and things, but from what I can see, and I think someone got badly injured there, didn't they?
Yeah, I was about to say there was.
I think there was an assault, wasn't there?
Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a serious assault there, and there was people coming in. I mean, this is part of this problem with antisocial behaviour and drugs and county lines dealing. They're coming in from London. We are literally like wildebeest sitting waiting to be preyed on by lions. That they are coming in and we don't have anybody protecting us. It's getting that bad. I kid you not. It is getting bad.
You do have people protecting you, but what you're saying is you want to see more and we need to work out how to do it better. Yeah? But they're definitely there. Madam, I've made you wait.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Diana Jones. I'm from the same ward as Councillor Sharon Ainsley over there. And really, I'm just going to reiterate what my three colleagues over there have said about visibility. Now, I hear what you're saying, that you have to balance your evidence, your statistics, but, we are here as representatives of our community, and we are telling you that the grassroots perception is that there is antisocial behaviour, there is crime, perhaps perhaps more than the stats would say. Now, you know, I'm not having a go at you, but if you're not prepared to, or you're finding it difficult to accept what we say to you as the representatives of our community, saying that these things are happening, the perception is that there isn't much police presence and people would like to see more. It is not surprising that, okay, you know, I hear again what you're saying about reporting via the 101 and the 101 online system and so on and so forth, and that things are happening in the background. But the reality is, the perception of that is not out there. Now, if you're reluctant or not so willing to hear what we are saying, then how do you expect the residents to have that confidence in yourself, in, you know, what you're doing, if the perception is that you're not listening to us right now, telling you there is a problem on the ground, and that we do need, you know, tar pots. It is a hot spot actually, because I've written down as we've been talking, as people have been asking questions and making comments, it is definitely a hot spot. It's not just on social media, it's happening regularly. I think probably there are residents who will avoid that area at the weekend because of what's happening. Most of the antisocial behaviour appears to be young people who congregate there, and residents have said there is no police presence to act as a deterrent. Now, if there is no deterrent, then the antisocial behaviour will grow. That should be obvious. You know, if there is a perception that there is a police presence, and I think one of Peter over there, Councillor May said, you know, on the island there was a presence of PCs, PCSOs, and that develops the confidence in the public that, you know, that there are people around who will enforce the law, keep the peace. But if we are not seen, then, you know, you have to forgive us, the residents, in thinking that they can do what they like. Residents don't feel assured, they don't feel protected. It's all very well for you to say that, yes, you are protecting us. Yes, you are protecting us from the county lines. But if you're not seen to be there, you can't have that confidence from our communities. You know, so I'm saying, I'm backing up my residents, about councillors here. We need to see more of police presence in our area. You need to hear what we are saying to you. I think that's more of a comment than a question, really. Thank you.
But it is a very acute and worthwhile comment. It's what we're here for, to hear these things. I wasn't prepared to let the assertion that crime is up across Castle Point go, because we don't have the evidence for that. But if we have got very clear information from you that there are issues, particularly around hotspots like tar pots, then I think I heard you in response to the last question say that you're going to get down there and look at it, and that is the positive feedback, that we are going to intervene on the back of the specific information that you bring us this evening. We have to work on the basis of evidence. You are giving us additional evidence.
Great, really appreciate that. And just to, you know, reiterate about the residents' perception, if residents have already tried to report incidents to you, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of visible response, then, you know, over time, as we've heard, residents get put off and they think, there's no point, we've already done it, my neighbour's done it, nothing's happened. Then, you know, people are going to lose confidence in really what you are going to provide for us as a community. And I think it's important. It's that perception, really.
It has to be a partnership. It has to be.
Yeah, but then if
that's
residents report, there needs to be a perception that you are doing something in response at the time to the complaints, to the calls, to whatever, you know, our requests for help. So, thank you.
I think I'll take a question from
Laurie.
Yeah.
Laurie. I don't know how many vehicles, response vehicles that are available midweek. But I was involved in an incident on January, actually last year, with a burglary which happened next door. After 30 minutes, I actually got in my car and went up the road and found 3 of the burglars. I'd already phoned 999 when the alarm went off, and I stood there facing 2 guys that were 6 foot, and 1 guy got back in his car, stood there, phoned 999, and I would have thought that is a good emergency, but there's nothing available. And I said, look, there's 2 guys standing here now, they're walking down the road, and one's just got in his car. But there's nothing available. It was on a Monday night, just after 6 o'clock. Nothing available.
Yeah. Firstly, I apologise that you found yourself in that situation. That's
So I went after them.
yeah, well, yeah, either way. I think it's one of those moments where you catch up with them and you go, oh, now what? But the demand we face varies massively from day to day, and unfortunately, there's no rhyme or reason to it often. So while most days there is going to be adequate response officers available to deal with, particularly emergencies that, people will give me millions of examples of when we've taken ages to get to a non-emergency job and sometimes never do, and I accept that. But with emergencies, generally, we're very good at getting to them. However, there are the odd occasion, and it can be Monday night at 6 o'clock, where everything's just, the perfect storm has occurred and everyone's committed at jobs. And we'll drag people in from as far and wide as we need to. And, there was a day not so long ago where we called a unit from Clacton to the south because that was the closest available unit. It's not often it happens, but it does happen, and it sounds like you were just really unlucky because it doesn't sound like we were telling you your job wasn't an emergency. We were telling you there's just no one to go to that emergency right now.
That's what they said. So I can go. The good news is that I met your CID people from Canby, and as far as I know, they've got at least one of them, if not 2.
Good.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had a similar issue before I nipped next door, I was on the chest to go up the road, and my daughter a few weeks ago had someone trying a front door, and she looked out the window and he just looking at her, and then he actually walked to the car and tried to get in the car, and you can't be able to. What I wanted to say before I go any further is thank you for coming today. I'm sorry if it looks like we're attacking you. We're not meaning to attack you, but the idea is to come and ask questions and try and get some of this stuff off our chest. Not because if we just come and sit here and just say everything's wonderful, there'd be no point.
Spot
on. So I think one of the things is I'm a counsellor now, so because I'm a counsellor, I get to see things from a different perspective. I get the police reports, and you can see about how much crime there is, so I know you say about statistics, but every week I get the police report, and every week there's across, whether it's Boyce or St Peters, there's burglaries, there's cars being stolen, there's places being broken into, and I think before I was a councillor, we just announced yesterday in Castle Point, 0 increase in our tax this year. Before I was a councillor, I used to get my council tax every year, and every year the one thing I would see is that there would be an increase in the amount of money that the police are asking for out of my taxes for the service that you're providing, and there's another increase this year. I know we're in difficult times and budgets are being cut, but I'm actually seeing a reduction in my expectation across this borough, that every year you're asking for more money. So if you're telling me that you saved 8 million by closing the police station down, where's that money going first, and still keep asking me for more money each year in my council?
I mean, that is a good and relevant question. So yes, we have saved over the last 5 years about 60 million in total. So it's all been reinvested into the police, and I've also negotiated a much better deal with central government, and the council tax has gone up. So overall, it's 100 million more funding from outside plus 60 million more savings from inside. So 160 million more being spent on frontline policing than 8 years ago. And that takes it from 270 million to over 400 million. And it's gone on those 905 extra cops and the nearly 300 additional staff to support them. It's gone. There was a question about tasers we didn't really answer. The answer is that pretty much every cop who wants a taser has a taser. We have bought a lot more tasers. We've bought a lot more equipment to mean they can be out on patrol. And it's having really beneficial impact, but it is having the biggest beneficial impact on the highest harm crimes. So on serious violent crime, as I said to you at the beginning. They're not the things, thankfully, that people see very often, but they are very significant.
But I think it would be good to get that message out somewhere, because as a, you know, like when I wasn't a councillor, I'm getting my thing every day, I'm sort of seeing, all I'm seeing is that there's another increase from the police, and actually the police is always more than the fire brigade. But my perception
We've had an expansion programme.
Yes, where's that money going? It'd be good to get that out to the public, because before I was a councillor, now I have to look at things from a different perspective. I have to look at the bigger picture. But just as a man on the street getting his council tax, I think to your point, it is difficult for them to understand why the cost is going up, but they're not actually necessarily seeing the benefit. Although I get your point that you can't be visible everywhere. I mean,
and some of the worst stuff isn't very visible, but yeah. But we do need to do the visible stuff as well. The antisocial behaviour, the drug dealing, that needs to be dealt with. The streets need to be safer. I would agree. Thank you. Sharon, again, yes.
Sorry, I always ask lots of questions.
Are you nearly at the end of your list? Maybe you can ask all the rest of them now.
We have time.
I've still got my list, but it's a question that I wrote down as you were speaking earlier regarding the 3,755 officers. Are these all full-time?
Yes, that's full-time equivalent. So some of them are, if they are part-time, then we count it as part-time, and it's the 3,755 is full-time equivalent.
Right, okay. And then you also mentioned remote working. So how does that work with a police officer?
So they're out in the patrol cars, they're out on the streets, they've got these things, they can make reports, they can pick up intelligence. Indeed, in some parts of the county, they can see the CCTV from the council on this and work remotely. They don't have to go back to a station.
That's my misunderstanding. I thought you meant they were working from home.
No. Not unless your home's a crime hotspot, which I don't think it is.
To be fair, I'd hate to work from home.
No, that's not how police officers work.
Good. Anybody else, or I've got one?
I've got one.
I've got one.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go on then.
It's my last question, you'll be pleased with that. And I think you touched upon it a little bit. So recently we've seen a surge in the number of vehicle thefts and other crimes during the small hours. And I'll be very interested to know your answer to this, as I'm sure a lot of our residents would be. Do you support the switching back on of our street lights throughout the night? And if so, Roger, will you be applying pressure on Essex County Council to do so? Thank you.
So from the policing point of view, we did a big piece of work on this to see what the impact on crime was. There has been no difference in the crime trends between the areas with the lights on and the areas without lights on throughout the night. So I don't have any evidence to press for that.
And yet the police's own advice, and Paul can confirm it, we are advised to park for our own safety in well-lit streets, are we not?
Yes, so that is part of crime prevention advice that we issue, because if someone's targeting a vehicle, I often liken crime prevention stuff in terms of what can make next door's car more desirable than mine. Do you know what I mean? So if someone who's intent to steal a car, they're going to steal a car, what can you do to make sure it's not yours? And yes, being parked in a lit area where there's more chance of them being seen, identified, may be a deterrent. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to target your car, and we've seen time and time again houses where they've got lights on their driveways or whatever, and it does little to deter them. It's about marginal gains, I suppose, and trying to increase your odds of not being a victim.
So, Roger, in this all-important election year, that was my question, this is the one thing that I want to take back to our residents. Do you support the lights going back on?
I do not have the evidence to do that. I can't.
So it's a no.
I can't.
Okay, thank you.
So my question was, so this comes from Gareth Howlett, who is in Seymour, but it's also from myself, and if I just give a short bit of history, which I'm not proud of. So there's the particular stretch of road as you go towards Basildon, where it's 50 miles an hour. And I was going along there at 55, got gunned about 6 years ago, and did the course, and I've never sped along there since because I'm always wary that they might be in that same spot. And everybody knows that when you drive down Brent Cheese Hill, drive very slowly because you're always hiding there. But I'm not seeing that same sort of thing in Hart Road, he's mentioned, Kenneth Road, Kenshill Road. Some of these roads that are long stretches that run all the way from London Road all the way through to Church Road. Down Church Road, it's horrendous the speeds they go down there. And in Hart Road, when the election was on, they were speeding past me, and I sort of put my hands up, and there was 4 young guys in the car, and they just ran the window down and gave them the usual names that sound like banker, and then drove off. And you cannot be doing this every day. There's better things I know you've got to do, but it would be nice if once a month or so you could target some of these roads, because once people know that you've targeted certain roads, they're much more wary about speeding along there, because you know it's out there, you target a certain road this month and maybe once next month, and then everybody gets told be careful when you're driving down Hart Road. I don't think people, you know, I took in my thought, people certainly don't want speed bumps, because you know there's people that's moaned in some of my roads, Hazelmere and that, and I go down and say, would you like speed bumps? Well, I would, but not outside my house. So you know you have to have it. So you can't do that. Speed cameras is probably not what everybody wants. So it's difficult, and if you have the sign that said 30 miles an hour, most people just ignore them. But I think sometimes that police presence now and again, just to pick a few roads, of these speedy roads, may deter people, because I think there's a lot of people that are very careful down Brent Cheese Hill now. Sorry, that thing.
Yeah, so the roads you sort of reference in terms of the ones where everyone knows police go there, that's generally done as part of the stats around killed or seriously injured statistics. So we target specific roads that we know have seen historically more accidents involving injury. So that's why you'll get certain roads that will naturally get more attention. In terms of the other more residential roads, we do target them. In fact, the community policing team were out yesterday doing an operation around it and done a load of roads across Castle Point. We had we've recently employed 2 extra, I can't remember what they're called now, that essentially they're civilians employed by the police who go out and do speed gun work. They were out this week in Castle Point and Rochford as well. So it is happening, and we do promote it over our social media whenever we do it, and we get lots of results from it as well in terms of prosecutions, speed awareness course, etc. One thing I would say is whenever we do put it on social media, and I monitor our social media very closely because I like to read the comments and know what people are saying, and for everyone we put out, say we did this road, this road, this road, you'll get 100 comments saying, what about this road, what about this road, what about this road? So in short, every single person wants us to do speed checks on their road, and we do many of them, and we genuinely do look at those comments and try and include that in our future plans as well. So the ones we did during the week were based on previous comments where people have said to us in engagement meetings or through social media, can you do this street? So we do it, but as you rightly say, there is so many, to do anything meaningful for any individual road to almost get a reputation for us being there, it will take years to get to that level.
But could I then say Hart Road and Kenneth Road? I did. Could you let me know when you do them?
No, we won't let you do that. We won't just say, I've done speed watch on Canby for 7 years.
Well done.
It works well. The last time we done our favourite spot, one of your PCs had already nicked it. The one that used to be a special constable on the island, but now is regular in the job. But it works well. You've only got to need a few people. You get training, you get the equipment, In fact, our gun's been updated. We're getting a now modern one. The old one was steam driven.
We,
It still works.
we are crying out as well for more people to join
Yeah,
the community
it
speed
does
watch.
work.
Do it.
If
Yeah.
people want to do it,
Speedwatch.
please pass me your details.
Yeah.
I'll get them to the right
Thank
people,
you.
and we will get you the equipment. It's available. We just need people that are committed to do a decent
I
amount of
think I
time.
want to do it, so I mean, I know because we're the people might have, but Andrew Sheldon
No.
did do a piece of work out there where he was
No, it
asking,
works.
where he asked if people wanted to do that, and I said to my wife, we should go and do that. We're retired, we're ideal around our area, but the abuse that came out over WhatsApp and everything else about you, have you got anything better to do if I catch you and
Oh, well,
all
I mean,
this sort of stuff.
response
And
to that.
it puts you off of wanting to do it because
Yeah.
you're frightened about it because the public don't want you because they don't want to get caught. Or
So
you don't
I
get caught,
do
don't
it.
speak.
I do it around my own area. There's a big school down the end of my road, and I'm a member of the community speed watch there, and we go and do it on a regular basis and try and it does slow people down. It is very effective, and you do get people giving you V signs and winding the windows down and shouting at you. But I would say they're balanced, not necessarily one-on-one, but they are balanced by people actually winding the windows down and saying, good job, really pleased to see what you're doing. And certainly the mothers and the people dropping off kids at school are really positive about it. So it's not one-way traffic, but you do have to be a bit resilient, I would agree.
Also, you can't just go where you want. We get a designated
Yeah.
list of places where we have to be.
Right.
And if it has an effect and brings the statistics down, because the people get a letter to say that you've been caught speeding.
Yeah.
If it's over 35 miles an hour, 33, isn't it? But we can't just say, well, if someone says, well, my road's just as bad, go down there, we're not allowed to.
Right.
We can ask to have it changed, and then the officers look into the statistic to see whether it's worth doing it. Otherwise, you have to stick to the ones
And
you've
whether
got.
it's safe to do it as well.
Yeah, they're normally main roads.
Just to
Between-
say, you're right, Paul. You were out. Your teams were out this week. I won't say
We
where.
didn't get you, did we?
No, you didn't. No. No. Well, it's all part of it. But yeah, quite right. They were out, and it was good to see. And I actually gave them a thumbs up.
Good.
There you go.
And the National Driver Remediation Scheme courses, the things that we do as an alternative to getting points, they seem to be really effective as well. I mean, like you said, you'd done one.
Yeah, I've done one.
I think the trouble with this is that mine was
Criminals.
mine was
Well, no,
about,
because they didn't get the.
yeah, mine was about 6 years ago. I went on the course and took it very seriously because you don't take it seriously, you can get the points anyway.
Yes.
But there was some young lad on there and they said to him, and he was quite high on the stage of, no, you can't even do the course. And they said to him, like, how did you do that? And he said, oh, well, I was racing my mate with traffic lights. And he said, like, do you think it's worth it? And he went, excuse my language, but later went, oh, yes. And I whooped his ass. It's like, these are the people you're dealing with. Just
Yeah, so the courses don't work with everyone, but actually the feedback we get is that they're much more effective than points with most people.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Also, even doing it, you can't catch the people you think you're going to catch. We had a number of incidents. Once we get back to the town office, Laura, who does it with us, she goes through the statistics. And then when we had a BMW come past at 90 miles an hour, he thought it was clever to turn around and go back the other way. When we got back to the office, the registration plate was a motorbike.
yeah, no.
That's very frustrating.
But I must say, you were at the other week. You were at Robert Drake School on Church Road doing the guns there. So that was really good and very effective. And I know all the parents were very supportive of you doing that. So thank you.
So I'm going to take one more question from Sharon, and then I'm going to draw a line because we have gone
Yeah, that takes
45
over
minutes
9 o'clock.
over the.
Make it a good one, Sharon.
Well, actually, I was about to wrap up and
Oh, right.
say to you, thank you very much for coming. And one last question. Obviously, Roger, as it's election year for you. So directly elected PCCs are intended to hold the police to account. What assurances can you give us to guarantee robust processes are in place? And what steps are in place to ensure that any recommendations are fully implemented?
Right. Okay. So I mean that's my job, and that's what I do. So I hold a monthly meeting where the police provide their performance data, both financial and operational. operational performance data. I held the Chief Constable to account for that performance against the police and crime plan. I published the police and crime plan. That is on the website. I could have brought copies this evening, but it is. There are, good. And that tells you what we're trying to achieve. There are metrics in that saying what we want to see improve. And I have a quarterly board, which is the strategic board, where we review strategic decisions being made by the Chief Constable and his Chief Officer team. That's the formal way they give us the information. The agendas and minutes of those meetings are all published, so you can scrutinise them as councillors. Your colleague, Russell, attends the Police, Fire and Crime panel as a representative of Castle Point, and he gets to hold me to account there for the job I'm doing in terms of holding the police to account for their performance. And indeed for the major decisions I make around things like assets, buying or selling buildings, and the policy decisions that I make on the recommendation of the Chief Constable. All of those are reported to the panel and they get to scrutinise them. And of course I am up for election every 4 years. Actually, it's never been quite 4 years. It was 5 years the first time because Kevin got in the way, and then we got 3 years because we already had an extra year, so it's been 5 and 3. And I do that on the back of a manifesto. The manifesto is still on my website, my political website. You can review and see how we've done against that. As I say, the commitment to the investment is there, the commitment to the key crime types that we've made an improvement is there. Have we achieved everything? No, particularly not around rape and serious sexual assault. There is a lot more that we need to do there. And we are in the middle of the programme on things like drug crime, violence, violent crime on the streets, and I think we've probably achieved what we set out to achieve on burglary, but I think we need to have new targets now about what more we can do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for your time this evening. We are here to hear your concerns, and we have taken prolific notes. And it's not just a question of sitting here and answering the questions to the best of ability. There's actually actions to be taken to follow up on them. So thank you very much indeed. These meetings are incredibly valuable to us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.